Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, mums and dads. I'm Ruth Benny, head girl from Top Schools, and you're joining us here at the SCMP morning studio to talk about stuck at home. Do you have cabin fever, and how are you staying sane during the school closures? So thank you for joining me. Firstly, I have with me Charles Beddoe, Head of Training and Development of Kickstart Professional Services, and you are dad of Leia, almost 3.
Yeah, that's right.
Morning,
Thanks
Charles.
for inviting me.
Thank you. And we have Anna Rivera, owner of Model One, model, mum to Maya, almost four,
Yes, Maya's
and
4.
Ryan is 20 months.
Yes, he's 20 months.
Thank you, Anna. The coronavirus outbreak has forced all of us to have our children stuck at home, and lots of us are also stuck at home. So we're here to talk about how we as working parents can balance deadlines and manage young children while working at home, and how do we stay sane. So how are we doing? Are we sane?
Well, obviously it's been a bit of a challenge to try and adjust to the situation. Just about hanging in there at the moment.
Yeah.
How about you, Anna?
I would have to agree. It's a bit challenging. I find that I'm a little bit on, I guess you would say, more on the lucky side because I live on Lantau Island, so I'm a little bit away from all of this. And then I find that being isolated on an island is a little bit more fun than being isolated in the city.
Right. We're going to talk more about what we've been doing to combat the stress and how to stay sane. If you are watching and you have ideas, and please type the comments and give us, ideas and insight into what you've been doing to stay sane. Also, I have slightly older children, and we are focusing the discussion today on younger children. So that's why you're here. With children aged 20 months up to 4 years.
Yep.
So they're off of kindergarten. How has that really impacted your family life? How has the routine of the daily life changed for you?
Yeah, I'm happy to start that. So for us, it's not been too bad because we have 2 parents, a helper and 1 daughter. So there's 3 of us, and we also have an aunt and uncle that come along to help out as well. So there's been adjustments. For our daughter, it's been difficult because she just started kindergarten in November, and then she got into the routine. She was on the school bus, and then suddenly we had to say, okay, kindergarten stopped, and that's hard to explain to a 3-year-old kid.
So she started in November.
She started in November.
And finished in January.
And yeah, exactly. And then we moved house to be closer to the kindergarten,
Right.
and that was a few days before Chinese New Year. So it's it's kind of thrown all the plans out of the window.
And for you, Anna?
Well, really, it's just been, I feel as though my whole world's been flipped upside down because our daily schedule has been changed completely. Maya was so used to going to school, and she had her daily routine. We had our routine with my son, who is 20 months old, and I find that it's a struggle because he does not get to do his routine because I spend most of my time with Maya, doing her homework and focusing on what she needs to have done during the day.
Right.
And then also focusing on, she has no friends around at the moment.
Okay.
It's all the socialized things that she used to do before, all the group activities that has been completely cut off for her. She feels very isolated. So then talking to her and consoling her about this as well. Plus we have 2 very large dogs that I have to take care of as well. And it's just different.
It's
like
a lot, right?
Yeah, it's so much to manage now.
I know we were talking yesterday.
Yeah.
I mean, I was feeling the stress, although my children are older. I think it's important for us not to underestimate the amount of stress that we feel as parents.
Yes.
It's been really tough, right? Let's not diminish. And I mean, we're all very good at saying like how strong we are and we can get through this, and we'll look back on this and laugh. I fail to see that will be the case. But it has been overwhelmingly stressful for all the families that I'm in touch with, for my friends and for myself, and I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah.
So as parents, what are we doing? What are you doing for yourselves to stay sane? I know that, Charles, your wife Amber is at home with you, and you have 1 child. I mean, your situation, you're city living, and your situation is a little bit different with country living, but just ideas for other parents. Keeping ourselves sane.
I mean, in our household, because I can work flexible hours, so I'm able to take some more mornings off to play with my daughter, because I'm very conscious that she's basically stuck in the flat 90% of the time.
Is she?
And
Yeah.
even though we try to go out, it has to be heavily managed, because we live quite near Hong Kong Park, and even half of that is closed. So that is kind of gone out the window. So for her, it's been all about helping her. And you're right, sometimes you forget to communicate with your other half or your helper or other people in the house, because you're so focused on looking after the kids, and that can start to build up other pressures as well. So yes, we have been trying to have conversations outside of looking after our daughter.
Right. It's been.
Yeah, we've actually been doing the same thing. I've had I had to sit down with my helper and actually go through the whole topics of like time management, basically, to kind of schedule everything out, from what we're going to do in the morning to what we're going to do in the evening. My husband, who has a very busy schedule, on the weekends we actually plan more family activities for all of us to be together. The only thing that I find a little bit difficult is that because my children are two very different ages, so Maya's allowed to go out a little bit more, and I find that with Ryan, he's 20 months. He's a bit young, and I'm very worried about his immune system.
Right.
So he tends to stay home more. So I find that he has cabin fever, basically.
Yeah.
He's running around. He's just like on the walls, climbing curtains, or just doing something like wild or getting into something. And I'm like, oh boy.
Even though you live in a relatively larger place than a lot of people.
And we actually have a backyard, and he just goes back there, and
that's a blessing.
it's a blessing. Like we're very lucky.
I think that, 95, you said that Leia is in the house 95% of the time.
Yeah.
I wanted to come on to the idea of, obviously there's schoolwork, the children are supposed to be completing schoolwork, we'll get to that. How about socially? Obviously the kids are spending time with you, with adult helpers. Are they socialising with children of their own age at all?
Yeah, I mean, in our situation, we've tried to arrange some play dates. So some of the classmates that live near us, we've tried to arrange, let's go to the park at the same time and play in the playground when it's like a bit quiet. And I've got other friends with kids, but it takes a lot more organisation, and it's only once or twice a week. Whereas in school, she was going to school every day, and there'd be all 12 of the children for her to play with. So it's not the same social interaction.
I mean, you were saying yesterday about, we had lunch yesterday talking about the schoolmates. So someone's asked, someone's made a comment, is it appropriate to have school friends over to play?
I think it's fine, especially if you know the parents. And most schools in Hong Kong, you actually get to meet the parents at like school activities and stuff, because most of the schools here have a lot of like parents that are very involved in what's going on in their schools. The one thing that I find that is a problem, which I'm not sure if you have the same problem, is that a lot of parents during this outbreak, or once they decided that schools were closed, they all decided to fly out. So Maya, in her class, there's only 6 students that are left. So it's just kind of like, well, they're slowly, I think they're starting to come back, because it's already been over a month, but it was surprising when we got the number of how many students were in Hong Kong at that time.
Yeah, we noticed a lot of, there was families who, they went away for Chinese New Year, and then as soon as the schools were closed, they just said, you know what, we'll stay wherever we are, Australia or England. And there's also been other people that have just decided to move out of town, take the opportunity to move out of Hong Kong. But we have some classmates that are still around. In terms of if it's appropriate to interact with other children, I think it's still okay if you take all of the hygiene precautions. I mean, the city's not on complete lockdown yet, right.
So we think it's appropriate, but it's just difficult logistically to make that happen, right? Are you taking them to any scheduled activities that are still running?
I'm actually starting to look at that. There's a lot of like art activities that are going around. There's smaller play groups that are going around, but it kind of made me think of like, if these small activities and things that are happening and are allowed to happen, how come schools are not allowed to be open during this time, even for like half day or something? Because these places or these venues are doing the same thing. Like they're holding up all the high precautions. They're doing temperature checks. They're hand washing. They're just cleaning everything down, which I find that the Hong Kong schools are already doing this.
Yeah.
And most of the nursery schools are so much cleaner than most places that I've ever been in Hong Kong. So I'm just
That's
very
right.
surprised.
But Charles, you run a learning centre. I mean, the
Yeah, that's right.
directive from the Education Bureau to close schools, does that apply to learning centres?
It doesn't apply to learning centres that are small, that don't need the education licence,
Right.
because they are not registered as schools.
So that's when they're having fewer than 8 children in a group
per
together.
class, or there's rules about how big it can be. So a lot of learning centres are a lot smaller than that, and also activity groups. I think the education licence applies for academic subjects. So I think don't quote me on this, but I think dance classes and things like that are not, and play groups are not officially under that, so they can still operate.
And I think again, logistically, there's a lot of parents that are very hesitant to participate.
I think
at
it's
the moment.
more about, do you want to go outside? Do you want to take your child on public transport, on the bus or on the MTR,
I think you're
even
right.
on taxi,
I think it's a lot to do with the commute that a lot of people are scared of.
rather than the end venue, because you trust them, they're going to keep it clean, they want to look after the kids, but it's the travelling.
So we were also talking, how about the, most people live in an apartment complex here and they have a swimming pool and a soft play area, and we were talking, some of those have actually closed down.
Yeah, ours has been closed.
It's been closed, right?
It was closed straight away after we moved in.
And none of them are, a very few of them are open now.
Yeah, ours
they're
has been
open
roped
during
off the
short
whole
period of
time,
time.
and our daughter has to go past there every time. Like, can we play it? Sorry.
Wistfully looking.
It's like a rope around it.
How about the open areas in your apartment building?
But that's the outside play area. I mean, in terms of just walking around the podium, that's kind of allowed, but they won't allow the children to play there. But you can kind of walk around, but
They won't
kind of
allow, but is it happening?
But there's not very much that the kids can do at those areas. They can't go scooting, they can't
Exactly.
roller skates or
They can't play
skateboard.
ball.
They can't do very much but walking around. They can't play ball.
So what I'm hearing from a lot of my friends is that everyone's taking to the hills. So the country parks are overrun, South Lantau,
yes,
Lama,
on the weekends
New
it's
Territories.
we
have
went
you been doing that?
Yeah, we did. That was about 2 weeks ago. We went to Lama to do a beach trip, thinking, oh, it's going to be nice and quiet. And we got on the ferry from Aberdeen, and it was completely full. Some people were having to stand, and I was thinking, this is the busiest I've ever seen it. And then in Lama, it was really busy. So it's kind of ironic that people are trying to get away from the crowd, but everybody's going to the same place. But I mean, at least there's fresh air there, I guess.
I think
And
that's
there's
the logic.
space. That's the thing.
There's
Like
more
in the
space
cities, you
once you're
don't
there.
have space.
Yeah.
Like that's the one thing I think a lot of people are missing in the whole thing about wearing masks is that in Asia everything is so compact, so you need to wear a mask to like protect yourself. But in larger areas like the U.S. or like in Canada, you have personal space where you don't need to wear a mask.
Yeah. We've been talking about socialising, and thank you for your questions, which we'll get to. I want to now turn to like the academics, which seems crazy when we're talking about children aged 3 and 4. But how are you finding the work that is being set by the kindergarten for your children, and how you're managing to complete it or not to complete it, as it may be?
Wow. I only can do half of it. Some of it I don't have the materials, which I find is just because of where I'm at. I'm just limited to what we have access to. And some of it I find that either my daughter's just not that interested in doing it, or she's just at that particular time, it's just had a mood where she's just like wants to walk off during the studies. And I'm like, this is not happening right now.
Right.
We need to study now.
And it's requiring you to suddenly become a teacher, which you're not,
Yes,
right? So
exactly. I find that's another big struggle. It's not something that I've desired to be, but something that I have been put in the position of becoming.
So I think you've taken it quite seriously. I think you're a very organised mum and quite a serious approach to completing all the academic work. Do you think that's adding to your stress, or has that been the right approach? Are you going to continue to employ this approach?
Well, for me, it's a little bit different. I'm half Asian and half Spanish, so my Asian side and the way that I grew up with my mom is like studies is very, very important. So I'm trying to find a balance in between, but I find that at this moment, because of all the thing that's going on, and the virus, and everybody is just kind of like isolating themselves, I feel like I need to focus more on the school for her, because everything else she can't really do. Like she can't really like have social events and things like that with other kids, because the one thing that's structured at the moment is her homework. Everything else kind of has to fall into place.
Okay, so you are finding that keeping the structure of the homework is helping.
It's helping, and it's keeping her in a routine. Like she goes to bed at the same time. She has dinner and lunch at the same time.
Yeah.
I find that a lot of my friends, they said they struggle with routines.
Yeah.
And I'm like, routine at this point is the only thing that's keeping me sane.
Right. Yeah, that's a good
That's a very good point.
Yeah. How's it working out in your family?
Well, for me, it's a slightly different situation because I teach the kindergarten age group and primary age group. So theoretically, it should be a lot easier. From our kindergarten, they have given loads of materials. They've really tried. They're making video lessons every day, even though it's for a year 1 kindergarten group. So I feel
year
that
1, it should
or
be
K1.
Is it K1?
I don't actually know
pre-nursery, I think.
I don't actually know the name.
Pre-nursery.
But
so she's very young, your daughter. I mean, so she's not able to do online? I mean,
no, we don't. She can watch a video that the teacher's made. So what they generally do is they get one of the books and they read it on camera. So they provide those videos. Then they provide some activities, but and this is not a criticism because there's not a lot they can do in terms of academics, but they're giving ideas about arts and crafts and activities that the parent can do with the child. Right. So that's okay if I'm there, and then our helper has stepped in to become almost, doing most of that with her. So, I mean, they're bonding really great, and also it's forced myself and my wife to be a bit more creative about what we do, on the weekends or when we have time with our daughter. But I think for parents in general, it's a very difficult adjustment. If I'm going to my work side, when I talk to parents, the biggest thing they're saying is they're not sure whether they're doing it right. So they're happy to try, and they're happy to be a part of their children's education, but now they are the primary educator and they're also the assessor of progress. And they don't really know because they've usually only got their own children to reference with.
Yeah, I think I'm so scared of doing it wrong or damaging something, or just like, she's been studying these like letters, and then all of a sudden I mess it up by doing something completely different.
But you're only doing your best, right?
Yeah.
Like, we're not teachers, or we're not, you are, Charles. Danielle, I mean, people are commenting. I think that the general sentiment is agreeing that routine is extremely important. Yeah. I think we can agree that even if you take school out of the picture, routine in terms of feeding and sleep and socialization for young children is extremely important as well. I mean, I know that even for my secondary children, the lack of routine is the thing that's hurting them the most. So I don't know if your children have started just to be asking every morning, like, when can we go back to school?
Oh.
She started that at the beginning. Now she's kind of given up. She's like, why is the school bus? When are we going to school? Where are my friends? And asking for her friends. Actually, one of the things we did, which works for the younger kids, which we found was really good for her, is we got our daughter to make a video message to her friends. So if she has like one of her best friends in the class, she'd make a video message saying, "Hi, miss you, what are you doing?" And then I'd send it to the parent, and they would make one from their child to send back. And that was actually a really big thing, because it's hard to explain to children, you're not seeing your friends, but they're still there. And that was a good moment. So we've been doing that more and more.
That's a good idea. I mean, the technology, imagine if this was 25, 30 years ago, would that in some ways be better than nowadays, where we do have all the technology? We have the video conferencing, we have YouTube.
It would just be different.
Yeah. There's positives and negatives, right? If
Maybe
having
less
technology,
screen time.
so you wouldn't have the problem of screen time, and you wouldn't have the news worrying you the whole time and thinking you'd probably spend more time. Maybe if it was before technology, you would work things out more yourself and just say, okay, I'm going to try it this way because I don't know. But the downside is you wouldn't be able to communicate with teachers and school and friends as quickly and effectively.
Right. I think generally, thank you, Michelle, for your comment, is that the technology and the websites and online materials is definitely helping.
Yeah.
But how much of the learning materials are you actually receiving from the school as opposed to for you supplementing that and doing your own research and top up?
Well, the difference, like when, let's say during the time when they had the protestings and the schools were out, we actually didn't get any information. I actually have to send emails to the schools and asking why we don't have anything that's prepared for this. But during the second time that the schools were out because of the outbreak, the schools seems to be more prepared and more organized during this time, and they've actually put booklets together and everything for weekly activities. So we have weekly packages of materials for the kids. Then we have like an online, I think it's called Seesaw, that we do with the teachers. And then we also have a things that we need to print out, like daily emails of stuff that we have to do.
Right.
Sometimes I think it's a little too much, but other times I'm just like, maybe it's not enough.
So most of it is provided, and they're guiding you through what to do, so you don't have to do an awful lot more to top up. Is that the same for your kindergarten child?
They are providing a lot of materials, but because I have already got a lot of materials, that's my advantage, right? So I found the types of materials that are really good are obviously books. So that's the best thing to do, like reading with your child. It's a great bonding thing as well. So getting them to read, even if they're not really reading, just flicking through the pictures. And the other things are activities involving their hands. For example, Play-Doh, colouring in, cutting and gluing, things like that.
Things that are fun.
Yeah, that's what they like, and that is still a useful skill for them to learn, especially when they're 3 or 4.
Oh, and I also find during the time that they didn't have any homework, if we go back during the protesting times, I found a lot of stuff on Pinterest, found a lot of stuff on YouTube that were just great activities and things for my daughter to do, and found things that were like age appropriate for both children to do, which sometimes you find is very difficult because there is a little bit of a gap between them.
Pinterest.
I know.
It's been a savior, right?
I mean, both of you are quite fortunate in the sense that you have flexible schedules and you've been able to stay at home with your toddlers. I'm not sure your husband's working. Is your wife working from home
she works,
at the moment?
No, she works full time in the office.
To work.
So,
and what sense do you get from your friends or from your friends or clients? You know, how is it for working parents who need to ask the helper to manage all of this online learning each day?
Struggling.
Yeah,
I've heard a lot of them, especially during like WhatsApp groups that you have on, that we all like have parents WhatsApp groups. You hear the struggles that a lot of these parents are going through, and some tears, and you know, sometimes at night that you have to console each other. So I do call some of my friends, and we have like some deep conversations about what's going on, because they're either they have a spouse that's not supporting them, or they're just overwhelmed because some of them have 3 children that are in 3 different age groups, and some of them have helpers, but then at the same time your helper has a day routine that's already going on through whatever it is that your household has to be done.
And the helper might not be a qualified educator. It's already asking, adding an extra load of work on them, and
so there's a question, is it appropriate, or how do we feel about parents to bring in tutors to help their children into their homes?
I'm actually looking for one.
Right.
and I was not going to be looking for one, but then because now they've extended the fact that schools are going to be out for such a long time, I'm afraid that my daughter's going to be left behind. Because even though that she's only in reception, I find that the tiger moms make you feel as though that you need to have a certain amount of skills, or your daughter or child needs to be in a certain level to be in the next class. I mean, we discussed this before, and you guys are like, oh, it's okay, but I'm still kind of like worried because I feel that stress from tiger moms.
And a lot of parents are worried. It's fear, you don't really know, right? I think a tutor is a good idea, not just for the time they spend with your child, but if you're getting a tutor in, if I would be saying, okay, can you please calibrate or assess, not assess as in do a test, but just tell me how my child's doing compared to different milestones, and can you also give some ideas of activities I can do between lessons. So having a tutor maybe once a week, just for an hour or something, that time gives everybody else a break.
Right.
And that tutor can also give you loads of ideas. They should have a lot of ideas of different activities that are age appropriate.
Yeah, and tutors I find is a good idea just because sometimes, well, I don't know if other parents are struggling. It's my daughter sometimes doesn't want to do the homework with me, and having another person there would actually help with that. But then I also struggle with the fact that I pay for school, but why do I need to pay for a tutor on top?
We'll get to that. But you're happy to have the tutor come into your home and do face-to-face. And Charles, you're doing a lot of online learning. Lessons.
We've switched to doing a lot of online teaching. So even though we are allowed to host classes in our centre, a lot of the parents don't want to do the journey, which we understand, and we're obviously not going to force someone to do that. We have had a couple of parents who don't want to do home tutoring as well, that's their choice, and you can't really argue with that either. So we offered the option of doing one-to-one and group online classes, just a short period, like 45 minutes. Because
are these for very young children, for kindergarten children?
A little bit older. I would say from about 5, maybe K3 age. It's okay to do, but make the session shorter. Make it half an hour or 45 minutes because it's a lot more intense. But that it's just a break in their routine. It's a different thing that happened that day, as against the blur of just being in the house the whole time. And
But are we worried? I mean, how much is the learning for Maya online? Is it mostly printing out worksheets, doing
It's mostly printing
offline?
out. There's actually, which we're very lucky, the teacher actually does a couple of videos and reading books to her and things like that through the Seesaw app. But Maya, she'll like to see it maybe once or twice, but then afterwards she's just like, she's done, because it's not actually what she's used to doing. Like when she's watching an iPad or doing, she would prefer doing the educational games instead of like watching that. But I still find it a struggle just to even get her to sit down and hold it, because she's just like, if it's homework,
Yeah, but most of the learning from school is not online, right? For Leia.
Yeah, no way.
No.
It's apart from the videos that they're making, which we don't mind if she watches a couple of videos a day. Obviously, we want to minimize screen time. I think under half an hour for that kind of age a day, and split up maybe into 10-minute segments is okay. But most of what they're giving is art and craft activities.
Okay, and that's appropriate, right?
Yes.
I mean, I know for online, for older children, the amount of screen time is overwhelming.
Yeah.
My son's school has just given some screen-free days, which we're happy about, but it's just too much screen time.
It's difficult for the schools to adapt. I feel
difficult.
that the schools are trying to make the best of the situation. Obviously, a lot of them got caught out and they weren't expecting, I mean, who knew this was going to happen? And even though the concept of online learning is there, it's not ideal, but at least the schools are trying to make something happen to give the children their curriculum.
Right. Have you thought about just giving up? Have you thought about quitting? It's kindergarten. Leia's not yet 3, Maya's 4, she has a school next year. Have you just thought,
no, the pressure's there.
The pressure, you feel the pressure?
Yeah, I feel the pressure. I just can't.
I don't think we will give up the place because we really like the school, and we even moved to be closer, although that hasn't worked out quite yet. But we really like the school, the teachers, they are trying, and we like the classmates. So hopefully they will restart after Easter, and I feel that taking her out of school and trying to find a new school at this stage is probably going to be even more problems than we already have.
Yeah,
so by that token, we will stay.
That's actually a really good point. I find that, I don't know if you guys see the feed that's on Facebook, a lot of parents are having like
someone's asked a question.
Yeah, a lot of people have a lot of input or thoughts of this. And you know, the thing is that after everything is cleared up, you still need to put your child in school. And these are the things you need to look at. And then even though you might
do you want to risk losing the place, and they've got their friends,
or going to another school, or finding another school, and like how difficult it is to place a child in a different school.
We circle back to what we talked about. I mean, that's a really good point, Charles, that if you do that, maybe it's a short-term gain for a longer-term pain, where, is that going to add to your stress load come April, May, when schools reopen and you realise, well, I don't have a school for my child. And
I think that is the biggest worry, to be honest. We are, the main reason to stay in is they are still giving us some learning activities. If we change school, we wouldn't be able to go to that school anyway. All the schools will reopen at the same time.
Right.
If it's a situation where you were thinking of changing school or moving country or something anyway, then maybe we've noticed that now's the catalyst for people to make that change.
Yes.
But if you're happy, I think you just got to stick it out.
Yeah, let's stick it
I mean,
out.
I would say, obviously, that if you do decide to withdraw, and there's a comment from a listener, that it would not be overly difficult to find a new school place, but if you don't want to go through all that stress, I think for me, from all of the conversations I've been having with clients and friends, is the divisive factor is not whether or not they are satisfied with the provision from the school, and it seems that in both of your cases you're quite happy that the school is doing all they can.
Yeah, and when I talk to the students and the families, I haven't heard, or maybe they don't tell me, but I haven't heard a lot of people saying, oh, it's the school's not doing enough. They maybe say, okay, they could try more, but they are not thinking, okay, my school's so bad that I'm going to jump to another school which will definitely be better.
Right.
They just realise the whole situation is difficult right now, and there's a lot of risks for taking a change, unless you wanted to do that anyway.
I mean, the Facebook has blown up. The questions are coming in now about whether or not we're going to be asking for refunds from schools. Let's just here, I think we would agree that we are not asking for refunds from our schools.
No, I think that's just going to cause so much of a headache and an issue that's going to happen, like I mentioned before, when things just tie down, you know?
I feel,
it's just
so most of the costs of the school are the building, I guess, and the rent and the maintenance and the staff.
Yep.
So it's not like they can put all those costs on hold.
Right.
So probably the cost of the school have gone down a bit because they don't need some supplies, and so, for example, we have to pay a snack fee. I'm hoping they refund that $150 maybe, but perhaps the school could make but even if they refund, 10% of the fee, is that really going to help? That's my feeling. I don't know, but this is obviously quite a controversial topic. But in terms of a full refund, I think the only thing you can do in that case is just withdraw your child and say, okay, I'm not paying anymore and I want to leave.
Right, and actually a lot of parents have done that, and they will continue to do that.
So the
they
school
are
is
leaving.
already suffering, right?
The schools are suffering, So they are leaving Hong Kong. You were saying that a lot of your friends have actually decided to just
actually, I've had about 10 friends that they were planning to leave, I guess, during the time when the protesting was going on, and then now because of the outbreak, they've pushed their moving a bit forward. So a lot of them are just waiting for their apartment leases to be up, and then they're already packed
There's
up
loads
and gone.
of apartments coming on to Facebook as well, right?
Yes.
We're suddenly moving back
That's
to
all you see.
wherever.
Lots of stuff for sale, appliances, last minute helpers available.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Helpers that are available now.
So
Lots of that.
Oh,
Well, let's try to stay optimistic. We're staying in Hong Kong, and our children are staying. Let's go back to the, well, just to summarise, we're talking about screen time for little children should be very minimal, right?
Try to minimise it and take a common sense approach. So obviously don't let your child have an iPad right in their face. You can have it at a bit of a distance because they don't need to see, if it's somebody reading a book, they don't need to see everything that clearly. They just need to see the person and hear the interaction. I'm thinking maybe, less than 30 minutes a day and split into small segments is not too bad.
It's good advice. So less than 30 minutes a day of screen time.
That's my
routine. It sounds good. Routine is critical, and people have been commenting and agreeing with you on that. So as far as possible to replace where the structure of the school used to be, replace that with a different type of structure. We talked about appropriacy of having tutors to come into your homes. If you choose to do that, then that should be fine.
I think the only concern if parents have a health concern, then they might not want to let anybody in their house. Then of course, then you don't have tutors at home. But otherwise, I think that's okay.
Let's just expand the idea of routine a little bit more. So beyond academics, and there was a comment from a gentleman that was said his daughter was starting to do her lessons at night time. So the sleeping routine has gone out the window. So sleeping, eating, exercise. I mean, my son, he's older, it's eating me out of house and home. I'm worried about weight gain because of the lack of exercise. And so apart from academics, let's talk a little bit about the routine for eating, sleeping and exercise.
I think at this stage, so when they're at school, especially kindergarten age, so 3, 4 and 5 years old, they have so many different routines. So they're getting up, then they're getting ready to go to school, and in their mind everything's gearing up. So they're eating breakfast so they can go to school, and then they get on the school bus. And most kindergartens are very structured in how they do it. It might be 20-minute segment of reading, then snack time, and they'll sing songs to change, to transition tasks. When your child's just in your home the whole time, everything can get a bit blurred. So it's up to the parent to
connects together.
Exactly. So it's up to the parent to consciously make those breaks. So now we're having eating time, and in the kindergartens they're often singing songs to transition from one activity to another. So if your child's 4 or under, that could be a really good way to help you transition, and also to change location. So perhaps you eat breakfast at the breakfast table or at the dining table, then we're going to do some colouring in and play. Okay, let's go to another part of the room and call it the colouring in playing area. And then when they're not doing something structured and they're just playing with their toys, take them to another part of the room if space allows.
Yeah, that's really good advice.
Very good advice. It's just to have them do things in different rooms for different timings and different activities.
And you are taking your daughter out of the house, right?
Oh yeah, I'm very fortunate that we live 5 minutes away to the beach. So I was taking my daughter out to the beach to do her homework because my son is in the house screaming and the dogs are going crazy. And what I find is that she actually really doesn't like to write. So at the moment, I actually have her writing letters and shapes and things on the sand with the sticks. And then she's really been enjoying that. And then like counting the cows, because in Lantau we have a lot of cows. So that kind of keeps her numbers and everything going.
The dead ones and the live ones.
Well, that is actually a really good idea. Taking those ideas, I mean, writing
what
on a
you
page
have in your
doesn't
environment
necessarily
and just
have to be
adding
on a page,
it.
right?
Well, it's funny that schools are doing forest school and beach school as if it's like a novelty thing now. So you're doing beach school in effect with some Montessori-ish approaches.
But it really works because it's something interesting for the child, and they're still getting that learning activity
Keeps
done.
them motivated. I find like putting her behind a desk, that just didn't work for her. It
Totally.
worked maybe for like a week, but now we're getting past that point where it's like it's over a month. She's bored. She doesn't want to do that. And she actually even told me, "Mommy, I'm bored." And I'm like, wow, those words, and you're only 4. Those were not words that I would think that someone would have at that age.
Yeah, it makes total sense. I mean, to ask a young child to sit for that many hours of a day with paper or even Play-Doh or games or bricks, it's not natural. So
I mean, we work by that. If you take a child's age and double it, that's about their concentration span on a typical task. So if we've got a 3-year-old, so we're thinking 5 or 6 minutes where they play with something. Maybe if they're really into it, they might play for 10 minutes. But if you've got to look after a child the whole day, then that's going to be a lot of activities that you need to do. So you need to think about how you can break it up. And going outside for a walk, even if it's just a walk around the podium and let's like count some flowers or something, or like you're doing counting the cows, that is just a change of scenery, some fresh air, and something totally different. And even when you get back in the home, they might be more interested in doing some other activities.
What about actual real exercise? Okay, going for a walk. I mean, what kind of physical activities were your kids doing before?
Yoga.
Are they still doing yoga?
She's doing yoga. There's actually like a YouTube yoga thing that I guess Cosmo Kids or something I think it's called, that she's following and actually was recommended by the teachers and recommended by other moms. And then my son's just doing tumbling time on his own. So
He's 20 months.
He's 20 months. He can entertain.
How about for Leia?
Well, running around the flat, climbing things. She's an expert climber right now. We try to take her, there's still some public parks that have playgrounds open, and some of the ones near us are quite quiet at different times. So at that point, we just say, right, okay, you know, climb on the climbing frame, run around, and then when you're done, we'll, you know, get her to wash her hands and everything to try and be. But also, when you're outside, the sun is, I heard, the sun is killing the virus more. So it should be, if it's a sunny day, it should be that it's safer to be on those playgrounds. So yeah, playground basically.
That's why everyone's heading for the hills. And
Yeah.
I mean, I live in the New Territories. I've definitely certainly started to see more activities becoming more common. My son's doing football 3 times a week, which is our saviour. Any other ideas for like exercise for young children?
I think in terms of the younger age, it's not so much, or there's the exercise element in terms of health, but there's also blowing off steam. So just getting them to run around until they're tired.
Extra energy that they have. Like I find my son has a lot more energy than my daughter did at that age, and I'm sure a lot of moms feel that as well. And trying to, like, I make like little mazes in the house or some type of like adding pillows on top of each other to kind of see if you can
really
climb and like make through things, and I think that seems to help a bit for him.
You've
And
made
you're
your own
thinking
home gym.
Yeah,
to
that's
climb
basically
through.
what you do. You make your own home gym, or everything nowadays is, you know, everything you have to make yourself.
Yeah. Another thing you've just reminded me of that we like to do with Leah is she has a couple of different balls and sticks. So we get her to play throw and catch or roll and catch just to get, this has to be heavily controlled, right? And get a very soft ball. But just to get that coordination. So it's not just about physical exercise, it's also about gross motor skills, fine motor skills. So even depending on the age, if your child's 3 or 4, you could be the parent or helper could be one side of the room and the child could be the other, and just roll the ball back and forward, turn it into some kind of a game, something like that.
Oh, and hide and seek is also another really good one. You hide the toy and then like they go and they try to find it. That's
We're having never-ending games of hide and seek every evening.
And we were talking yesterday about cooking. So Michelle's just made a comment that cooking is a great activity to be engaging your child, especially even if you're not at home. Your helper can do cooking with your
my
kids.
daughter loves cooking. She loves like measuring everything out and being able to go and get every ingredient from the shelves and bring it over. It's like just having just little activities and little things and tasks for them to do. It just keeps them busy.
It's really good. There's so many things about cooking that are great. I mean, it's coordination, getting back to the coordination skills. They have to think about what is appropriate. So even this morning, I was trying to make a bowl of cereal and my daughter came along and gave me some ideas and decided she would take over the task. But I'm happy to do that because she's talking me through, okay, we need this, okay, where's the milk? She's getting the milk out of the fridge. So she's thinking about things, she's communicating with me, we're kind of bonding, and we're also deciding what's an appropriate amount of cereal and milk. And even though that's a very basic activity, that's really good for a child that age. For slightly older kids, 5 and 6, you can even get them to things like peeling eggs or helping to make a salad or things like that are really good for them.
Yeah, so although the helpers probably, you know, they always want to do everything for our children, we can be deliberately asking them at this time to
actually Maya even enjoys washing dishes. Because she has her little footstool and she goes up and she's like, she likes to go and like start washing. It's a mess, but she likes to wash the dishes.
And then you have to wash them again.
Yeah, of course. But it keeps her busy, at least like finding activities just to keep them busy throughout the day.
And also for children, for them to be part of the home and helping out is a huge psychological thing.
I think it's a great opportunity. I mean, why not go further with the housework? You know,
my son loves brooming and mopping and like getting the laundry basket and tossing everything out.
I mean, they're learning responsibility, they're learning these kind of things, and maybe a bit later you'll find it easier to give them chores to do.
Hopefully.
Are you bringing them out to the supermarket?
I bring Maya to the supermarket. I still am a little hesitant in bringing Ryan out because I'm just worried that he's just going to get a flu or a cold or something because I just don't feel like his immune system is built up enough at that age.
We tried to pick a quiet time if we're going to bring our daughter to something like a supermarket or a restaurant. We want it to be not packed, just for, you know, minimizing the chances, right? There's never a 100% guarantee on anything, but yeah, supermarket's another thing she loves doing. So if you say, okay, can you help me get some cheese or milk, then she'll go and get something. Maybe you have to double check that she hasn't thrown something random like chocolate in there. I've ended up buying a few random things and like, what was this? But again, getting them involved, and it's another activity, and it's something to do with counting and reasoning and communication skills. So I think that's another great activity.
But it's also, as a parent or as a mom, sometimes you forget that it does take a longer time to do that. So that means when you go grocery shopping, it's going to take twice as long to do it.
So you need a lot of patience.
Yes, you definitely need a lot of patience to be able to do
I think that's right. You don't want to, if you're in a rush to grab some stuff, you don't want to bring your child along and then have to say, okay, sorry, you can't do this. So you have to plan it out. Okay, I'm going to give it an extra half hour because I'm going to have to sort out the trolley when we get to the till to make sure. Yeah.
So lots of ideas there. Going out to the beach, running around the flat, indoor ball games, cooking, housework, in addition to just keeping your kids busy, right? Trying to cure the boredom.
And I think for parents and even for myself, I often go online and I'm trying to think of all the different activities. So even though I've been teaching a long time, I'm still trying to think of new activities all the time. Because as you mentioned, after a week of, if they really like colouring in and Play-Doh, but after a week of doing that all the time, it's going to lose its excitement factor.
And mix it up.
It's not like you have to change all the activities every day, but maybe have something new or a different book or some kind of surprise that you can give them that just mixes up the day. And oh, by the way, we've got this, and you haven't tried it before.
Well, I have an award at the end of the week. So if Maya does all her homework, by the end of the week, she actually gets to pick a small toy out of a little box, which is, it's been a lifesaver. And sometimes it's just like she wants a little chocolate or something like that. So it's been great. So rewards are good things.
That's
a sticker reward as well, like a sticker chart is good as well. I mean, I used it for potty training, but I'm just like, okay, I had to bring it back for this.
But that's right. I use it. How should we say? Encouragement.
That's a good
so
idea.
Rewards and.
We've kind of got to the end of our planned discussion part, which rambled a little bit, but that's okay. And we've had questions coming in. If you at home do have specific questions for any of us, then please do type your comments, and we have a little more ideas. And we have a little bit more time to keep talking. We have had a lot of ideas. I think one of the questions there was, we started off talking about stress. We've gone through, and it all sounds like you are completely on top of everything.
I wouldn't go that far.
Right. But what if
can be deceiving.
Right. But can we keep going? How can we continue this? If the schools do, currently they're scheduled to go back on 20th of April, which is still seems quite far away.
It's been about a month, right? I noticed that from our situation and also all the families that we talked to, that the first 2 weeks people were, really taking charge of the situation and on top of things. And then it's week 3 and 4 is when parents are starting to, how should we say,
hit
struggle.
A wall.
Which is understandable, right? Because a lot of parents, even if they are trying to work from home, and we have a lot of families where they're working from home, but it's very difficult to work from home when you have a kid. So the other day I had to take a phone call and it was just 5 minutes, but it sounded like there was World War III going on in the other room. And I just had to cut it short. I said, sorry, I have to check on my daughter. So it's very hard to do anything, even simple like write an email. So parents are getting that work stress and their lack of productivity, as well as always having the child demanding from them. And after a while that's building up. So
So I think a lot of people are getting a stress coming at them at so many different directions.
Maybe as a solution, that's where maybe getting a tutor in just for a small time, just to have that break and to just break
I
it
think
up
there
a
have
bit.
been some cynics that have commented the tutors have really been cashing in on
this
has been good at this time.
I don't.
But
I
if
think
it's
most
needed,
tutors are not, to be honest. I think a lot are struggling because there's some people doing extra tutoring, but there's actually a lot of people just saying, okay, we're not going to do tutoring or we're going to leave town.
Right.
So I would, for us, we've seen less work and less students in general.
Yeah, but I've seen more advertising for tutors, like through social media, through like friends, through like WhatsApp groups. I'm sure a lot of other parents are seeing that as well. And the charges are a bit higher than what they were before, but also I wasn't looking for one before, so maybe I didn't really notice this.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. Maybe parents who hadn't done tutoring before and they're suddenly trying to to try it. But there's ways you can make it economical. I mean, even like 1 hour a week to bring someone in and make sure they really know what they're talking about, just to give you some ideas to work with your child for a bit and to leave some activities for a week. I think that could be okay.
When is your school scheduled to go on Easter holidays, and are you actually going to leave Hong Kong during that period?
No, we will stay in Hong Kong. I think it will be no change for us, to be honest.
Yeah,
I think we're just going to wait until, but because the kids are younger, I know if the children are in primary school or secondary school, it's a different thing because they're still doing kind of like a full school day on video class. So for us, it's no change.
Yeah, I don't see a change with us either. I mean, we weren't really planning any holidays. I mean, also for the summer, we actually haven't even planned our summer vacation as well, just because this has just kept on extending that we're just not sure what's going to happen later. I think everybody's kind of in limbo at the moment.
People are scared to
A
book
lot of
flights,
uncertainty.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
Yeah.
People
And
are scared to book flights.
where can we travel
Where can we
to?
go now?
Yeah.
It's safer than Hong Kong as the virus spreads.
If they do announce that the schools will be closed for beyond Easter, how do you feel about that?
I'm probably going to have to take a moment to just cry.
Yeah,
But
no, I would have to agree with you. I might have to take a moment to
because
cry.
if they close until the summer and they say, okay, straight into summer holiday, that means we're going from April to September. That's a game changer for a lot of people. If it's like a couple of weeks here or an extra couple of weeks, people are like, okay, I can handle this. If it's like that, then I don't know, to be honest, how I would deal with it. At that stage, we would have to get something more structured. I think what I might try and do is arrange like a couple of her friends to do a small group tutoring class together, even so, because I'm more worried about the social side, that she wouldn't meet her friends
But
for that
I'm
long.
also worried at the fact that that means that school has been closed for a certain period of time. That means, did they have enough to actually pass the next grade?
Yeah.
That's the thing that I worry about. I also worry about that if they decide to do school in the summer by making up classes, is that enough? I just feel like or they're going to be tested at the end of the year, but how do you test somebody who's in like reception or pre-nursery to say like, okay, you made it to the next
For
grade?
the younger age group,
I don't
it's
understand.
the academic side is less worrying.
Yeah.
But if your child is in K3, for example, and about to transition to P1, then it would be more worrying, because then you're thinking, have I prepared that?
That's where I'm at.
Yeah.
Right.
So
have you
that's why
prepared
But
I'm
you're in
kind
the
of like-
international sector,
Yeah.
Anna,
Yeah.
so I honestly, you can relax. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Everybody keeps telling me, but I'm
But
so
then-
worried
but
for
if,
Tiger
if
Moms.
they're joining a local P1 school, that could be a
That could be
concern, because
extremely
there's quite a lot of
stressful.
assessments even in P1. As they start in September, they're going to start getting assessments, and I'm sure parents are thinking, I don't know if my child is up to standard. They
But
just
they're
don't
also
know.
going to be
They don't know if
assessed
they-
by their social skills as well.
Exactly, and
Not
they're
just
missing
their
out.
academics,
So
it's their
there's
social
a lot of
skills.
worry.
Yeah.
So I think that would be
And I
worst
feel
case
like
scenario.
my daughter, maybe other people might feel the same thing. I feel as though my daughter's going backwards when it comes to her social skills. Before, she was just out there and she was doing a lot of things and a lot of activities and very open. And now she's kind of like introverted a little bit.
And if you think, so my daughter's 3, so a 4-month break, that's like a third of the year. That's actually a huge percentage of her whole life.
Yeah.
So if the school's then shut for another 4 or 5 months, we're talking like half a year of a 3.5-year-old's life. They haven't gone to school, they haven't had formal education, and they haven't been meeting their friends. So that could be
However,
worrying.
I mean, did you go to school when you were 3?
I don't know, I have to ask my mum what happened. I think they threw me in a play group,
Exactly,
but I know in
yeah.
the past it was a bit more
I
relaxed.
think it's different, but also the times now are different as well. Like
Yeah, things have
people
changed.
are expecting different
Agree,
things
agree.
at
And
different
the
levels
average
of
level
children.
of
Yeah.
children is
Now
so
it's totally
high
different than
now.
it was
And
before.
every you can say, okay, you know, in the past nobody went to school before primary school, and primary school was half day, but that has changed massively. So I'm sure every parent, they don't want to feel that their child is way behind the class. They want to just know that their child is, you know, on target with the class.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I think that's very Hong Kong for you. There's a lot of
Yeah.
noise and we tend to
And
listen,
worry.
and a lot of worry and a lot of stress. So just final question, we do wrap up. We've got lots of questions coming in. I think this is for you, Anna, because someone's asking about how do you handle an older child who's about 4 with a younger child as well. I mean, that must be very difficult. You've touched on it.
Yeah, no, it's very difficult for me, which I mentioned before. It's just because I feel as though that I end up spending most of my time with Maya because she needs a lot more attention, and it's not just the attention, it's also like because she has their homework, she has a lot of questions about things.
Yeah.
Like she's asking me like, why does she have to wear a mask? Why are the hospitals closed? Or why is this happening? How come or I don't see my friends? And these are things that I don't actually have to touch on with my son.
Yeah.
But it's heartbreaking that I don't actually get to see my son as much as I would like to, because during the time that Maya's in school is when I scheduled my son's time. So right now I find that after bath time is when I spend the time with my son right before he goes to bed.
Right.
And I've moved his bed into my room, so I mean me and my husband's room, so that he's closer to me, so I actually get to see him during the nighttime. But I don't get to spend the day with him, so actually I cry actually a lot about that because it's hard. It's really hard, and I feel as though my helper gets to spend so much time with him and watch him more than I get to see her. Let me see him.
It's difficult.
It's very difficult.
How does that work out at weekends? Does that change slightly when your husband's not working?
Yes, it does, because when my husband's at home, then my daughters focus on him,
Yeah.
and then I have my son the whole
Right.
entire weekend, which
Yeah.
is it's a blessing. But during the
Right.
weekdays, it's challenging, very challenging.
Yeah. It's challenging, right? I
Yeah.
think we can all agree. We were talking about curing cabin fever and how to handle the stress and how to stay sane during the school closures. Thank you, Charles.
Yeah,
thank you,
thank you, Ruth.
Anna. You're looking very sane to me today. And thank you for watching. We will be meeting all together, thousands of us, on May 23rd at the JW Marriott for the Kindergartens Festival. And I do believe that registration, the link will be posted. So please do join us for that. If you are thinking of looking for a kindergarten for next year for your child, then that is the place to be. So mark your diary for May the 23rd. Again, thank you, Charles. Thank you, Anna. I've been Ruth. Thank you for joining us. Thank you.